The views on a Breath of Fresh Air podcast reflects the parties involved, and we encourage you all to use it as a conversational tool that will lead to personal studies of your own.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Welcome to a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Here with your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz Gay. As a young person, Christianity can be so foggy, like smoke in the mirrors and so unclear. But we're here to bring you a breath of fresh air.
Now Joseph was well built and handsome, and after a while his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said,
Joseph, you are so handsome. Lie with me.
but he refused. He told her,
Look, my master does not have to worry about anything in this household because it's all under my care. And as a matter of fact, there is not a single person greater than I am in this household. The only thing that my master has withheld from me is you, because you are his wife. So how then can I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?
and though she spoke to Joseph day after day,
Hey, Joseph. Really, you're gonna turn me down every day? Come on, nobody's gonna know. Lie with me.
he refused to go to bed with her or even be with her. One day he went into the house to attend to his duties, and none of the household servants were inside. She caught him by his cloak and said,
Hey, Joseph. Lie with me. Nobody's gonna know. Come on. Lie with me. Come. Lie with.
When she saw that he had left his cloak in her hand and had run out of the house, she called her household servants.
You see? Look at the evidence. He brought this Hebrew here to laugh at us. And when no one was looking, he tried to have his way with me. But I wasn't having it. No. I yelled. And he ran out the back door like the guilty man he is.
Dreamer boy Joseph, the one who was hated by his brothers, was sold into slavery. Now he finds himself in Egypt. But does his story change for the good, or does it get worse? We're going to let you decide. Please join us as we delve into Genesis chapter 39. Well, welcome back to another episode of A Breath of Fresh Air. We are continuing the story of not Judah and Tamar, but but Joseph.
So yeah, I mean, it's funny because we call it commercial breaks, but it's just funny how like the chronology of the stories in the Bible sometimes, because it's like it was like a cliffhanger. It was two cliffhangers. You know what I mean? Like we had Joseph sold into slavery, right? Then we had another one where Simeon and Levi. You see what I'm saying? And like it's almost like these stories don't resolve, and then we move on to Judah.
And that
story,
man,
like that story, we get to see that they had children, but that we know nothing about like their lives after that point. You know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly. At least that story arrived at some type of resolution, but you're like, okay, could we explore a little bit more of their interaction afterwards, please?
Yeah, but I guess it's like the Bible is like a very long book to some extent, and imagine if they got into all of that detail, though. Like the Bible might be twice, three times the size that it actually is now. So I get it why a lot of things. It was just, I'm going to give you the facts and we're not going to even dwell on these things. Because at the end of the day, most of the stories that if not all the stories that that they go into in depth and have a divine resolution or undertone, and it can be used, you know what I'm saying? It can be used as reference for other people, you know, in that situation. The rest of these people's lives, it might just not be nothing
really
notable, you know what I mean? Since then, but
and then, like we say, everything in the Bible for a reason. So if it didn't make it, I guess it was also for a reason. Right. So, you know.
So, yeah.
So now with Joseph in chapter 39, we got the story of Joseph and Potiphar. So as a recap, we know that Joseph was sold to the captain's guard or the king's guard. His name was Potiphar. And so Joseph was in his household now. And so we see the Lord was still with Joseph, and everything he did in his Egyptian master's household was essentially blessed. In chapter 39, verse 3, when his master saw the Lord was with him, and the Lord gave him success in everything he did, Joseph found favor in his eyes and became his attendant. Potiphar put him in charge of his whole household, and he entrusted to his care everything he owned. I'm going to just stop right there, and let's think about this now. Joseph was a Hebrew who was sold into slavery by 10 of his brothers.
Yeah, 10 of his.
So 10 of his brothers sold him to the Ishmaelites, who sold him into slavery.
Let's say technically 9, because Reuben didn't have anything to do with that, and he was shocked when he found out that it happened. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna give Reuben a half. So I'm gonna say 9.5 because
Reuben had the intention of setting him free when he knew him was wrong.
Yeah. See, Reuben had the intention of setting him free, right? But the reason why I ain't gonna let Reuben off the hook, he is the oldest brother, and he did not speak up when they was plotting to kill him. He wanted to like, you know, make his little slick plans and say, okay, you know what? I could do this when they ain't looking. Instead of him stepping up and saying, no, we ain't against this, because guess what? Some of the other younger brothers might have joined side with Reuben and say, you know what? We actually don't want to kill Joseph. We might beat him up and rough him up like, you know, big brothers do. But to kill him?
All right, so I could just say it, bro. I personally feel like Simeon, if not Simeon and Levi, were probably the only two that really wanted to kill him. You know what I mean? Type of situation. You feel me? That's just how I feel. Speculation, of course. And
yeah.
But think about this, bro. You talking to your brothers. Granted, they are your brothers, right? But you see that they want to kill another one of your brothers. So killing a brother is not beneath them. It's not beneath them. You understand? Are you, as the oldest, which means nothing, bro, because they're all of age, are you gonna go against the grain to talk to these guys who have a bloodlust right now to say, yo, no, I'm the big bro. I don't kill this guy, XYZ.
But my thing is, right, what is done in the dark has to come to light, right? So, Reuben was still going to set Joseph free. Where was Joseph going to go? Back to his father's household. Where would have all of them have to end up back eventually? At Jacob's household. We already know Jacob mouth is in a deep freeze in that Joseph is a snitch. So Joseph would have relayed everything that had transpired to his father.
Potentially, but this is what I'm saying, dog. I don't think Joseph's life had ever been threatened before then. So he may have been able to conduct himself differently, considering that if I snitch right now, I might never survive again. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I saw the look in these guys' eyes, they wanted to kill me. But it's like this, bro. You know how in the age of the internet, where we have a lot of people who are very brazen and very outspoken on the internet. I have friends that are very timid people in real life. Some of them are even, I would even say, cowardly. But when they're behind a computer, they could speak their mind. They could, they could just let it all out. And that's always like crazy to me, because I can't understand that, But I feel like that just goes to show how you can be yourself when no one's around. So when the brothers go away, Reuben can sneak back and let them out, because there's no immediate consequence right there. You know what I'm saying? The situation is kind of pacified. you know? And Reuben could say, oh, I about to go see a lady friend. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I have to go out on business. And then he could go there and tell Joseph, hey, don't come back until a week from now. You know what I mean? So I could be back and we could be chilling in XYZ. And then you come back and say, oh, someone else saved me, XYZ. You know what I'm saying? They can talk it all out. That was his intention. So I can't say that. I just can't give it to Reuben. That's just me being technical. I didn't even have to do this, but you know what I'm saying? We'll just say 9 of his brothers were accomplices or were involved with selling him into slavery.
Okay. So now he arrived in Egypt as a slave. Now, luckily, well, I don't even want to say luck. God blessed him in that even as a slave, he got sold to someone with position in Egypt, the captain of the king's guard. And we see as the Lord was with him still, he rose to such prominence as a Hebrew slave. And the reason why I keep emphasizing the Hebrew slave, we're going to see it further in the Bible. So I guess, spoiler alert, Hebrews couldn't even eat with Egyptians.
That's a fact. That was said to be
Egyptians treated them like...
That was said to be an abomination.
Exactly. Right. So someone who is considered almost an abomination rose to such prominence in this man's household that he was in charge of everything.
So just to put into context, bro, in the Bahamas, we battle with xenophobia to some degree. You know what I'm saying? And we don't even have to get too deep into that, you know? But you know the way people think about certain countries. You know what I'm saying? That's the way Egyptians look at them, if not worse, because they're saying this is an abomination. It's like, to me, it's just like racism in America, where there are some people who are hard on the racist side to the point where they just can't be around Black people, immigrants, people who do not look like them, you know? So imagine this, right? You have someone who you despise, bro. You have a bias, you have a bias towards him before you even get to know him, just because of his heritage, you know? Yeah, just because of who he is, right? And for him, out of all the slaves on this block, because the Ishmaelites sold you, you know, so it could have been many slaves from many different places. It could have even been slaves who from Egypt, who maybe you committed a crime and now you sentenced to be a slave type of situation, right? And the Lord blessed you with favor to the point where the head of the captain's guard selects you as a slavery. So we could as a slave, you know. And I know that sounds kind of wild, like that's a blessing to be selected as a slave, right? But we can see how the Lord was ordering his steps even while in Egypt.
I mean, but even how you say, it's kind of weird to say a blessing to be a slave, but we know the treatment slaves received in other regards too. So we're just trying to paint. We all know it could have been worse for Joseph.
Right.
We're just trying to say, given his circumstances, it was the best in a crappy situation he could be in. And even in his situation, the Lord still rose him to a certain level of prominence. And going from verse 5, 39 verse 5, from the time he put him in charge of his household, he being Joseph, and the other he being Potiphar. So the time Potiphar put Joseph in charge of his household, all that he owned, the Lord blessed. And the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian because of Joseph. And the next thing too, so Egypt during this time, I think historically it's about like the 12th dynasty in Egypt. So this is when Egypt was like the Egypt we see in movies. This is when Egypt was like top dog country in that era.
Like a world power.
Egypt was the place. So they had a bunch of idol worshiping. They was like the lead town, the lead city. They like Nakhaz just said, they were the world power. They were like a superpower back then. So that was Egypt. This is like when Egypt was on that kind of prominence. And so now we're seeing, so now with all this idol worshiping, God ain't really blessing that. But we see since Joseph was there, Joseph never really lost his connection with God. So in all of his diligent working, God was still blessing him, and through him, Potiphar was being blessed. And this harkens back to when we see when Jacob was working for Laban, and Laban was saying, yeah, all of my blessings, that all of my sheep, all of my goats are being multiplied because of you. And I know that. Potiphar almost essentially realizing the same thing. Before this Hebrew slave came here, my household wasn't being this rich and abundant before that. Something about him is different.
And it's like, to me, it's just interesting that like even in verse 5, the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake, and the blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had in the field. And it's like people knew that this was because of God. You know what I'm saying? Like it's funny because like you can assume that it's luck, you know, but you could see that things were going so well that you were able to acknowledge that this is because of God. You know what I'm saying? This isn't luck, you know, because stuff like this don't happen, you know, and I'm just glad that this thing was even documented.
Yeah, man. And so, like you said, everything in Potiphar's both house and field. And then so you see Potiphar was like, you know what? I mean, let's even think about this too. The amount of trust you're building up with a slave. You see in verse 6, Potiphar left everything he had in Joseph's care. With Joseph in charge, he did not concern himself with anything in his house except for what he ate. Like, this ain't even like you would trust in your best friend. You trust in a freed man. This is the relationship and the trust you built in someone who is a servant to you, who has to follow what you're saying. And the reason you may say, like, yeah, it's kind of cool, he has to do everything you're saying, but usually is animosity between the master and the slave. The slave don't really like working for the master.
Yeah, unless they like in their mental, you know what I'm saying? Because like, you know, it's a mental hold, but he wasn't born a slave, you know what I'm saying? So he understands what freedom is. And he was just that diligent of a person. So like, to me, it's funny, bro, because like to me, it's just interesting how the writer paints, how the writer introduces this story. You know what I'm saying? Sold to the house, and the person, Potiphar, made him overseer, because we see everything that he touched turns to gold because of God. You know what I'm saying? And they say it's like he did such a good job. Potiphar could just be on autopilot. The only thing I worry about is what I eat. You know what I mean? You take care of everything else. Like and that's the type of success that you want. You know what I'm saying? But then they get to talking about you can see where the story is shifting now. You know what I'm saying? Like, we already get this work ethic, but let me tell you, Joseph, right? So, verse 6, right? The ending part of verse 6, it says, and Joseph was a goodly person and well favored. I'm just about to pull up another version, which would say, Joseph was well built and handsome, right? That's the NIV. I really wanted the ESV, my bad. And it said, Joseph was handsome in form and appearance. So those three texts, it was just trying to paint the picture that Joseph was good looking. You know what I'm saying? And I heard a pastor say this while I was in college, and it's funny, bro. This is chapter 39, verse 6. But in chapter 29, verse 7, his mother, Rachel, when she was first described, she was described as being goodly and well favored. And in the ESV, she was described as being beautiful in form and appearance. Same thing as Joseph, handsome in form and appearance. You know what I'm saying? Goodly and well favored, handsome in form and appearance. His mother, beautiful in form and appearance. So basically, you can see genetically, they were beautiful people. And we saw how Jacob carried on for Rachel. And we understand the degree to which he loved Rachel. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like, to me, I'm just trying to paint the picture like the way that the author of Genesis is painting the picture. Like, this guy is a handsome guy. You know what I'm saying? He's handsome. He's in shape. And that's an even better segue, because go for it.
Go for it.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So Kazi just set the scene for this, right? So as we've explored through all the other patriarchs, even though we didn't really consider Joseph a patriarch, but every main character thus far has had a test. And to me, this is one of Joseph's tests. You can say Joseph went through several tests, but to me, this is one of his main tests. Because now we see in verse 7, after a while, the masters, being Potiphar's, so I'm going to read it. After a while, Potiphar's wife took notice of Joseph, who Kazi just went through great lengths to show us that he was a very handsome, beautiful, well-built guy. Joseph was a stud back in the day. And she said, come to bed with me. Depends on which version you read. Come have sex with me. Come lay with me. Come be with me. She wanted Joseph.
Yes.
Her heart desired Joseph, just like how the prince of Shechem's heart desireth Dana.
True. So I'm going to just go on a limb and say that they were all beautiful, looking, but some people was like beautiful to the point where some people just can't control themselves. You know what I'm saying? We can see where I ain't gonna say Jacob couldn't control himself because obviously he controlled himself for 7 years, but the Shechem, what was it? Hamor? It was Shechem? Yeah, Shechem. Hamor was his dad.
Shechem.
Yeah. Shechem did not control himself, and it cost him his life and his entire family, friends, everybody from his town, their life. You understand what I'm saying? Now we see someone else who is just as rapey as Shechem. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just being real, bro, because it's one thing to want somebody and to lust over somebody, but it's what you do. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you are denied. That to me, it implies that like you don't have no boundary for someone else's, body. And then at the same time now, Joseph was a slave. So you could kind of understand how in the culture or in mentally, your body is not even your body. You are property of this house or property of the state or this country. So you don't have a yes or no, bro. You are a slave, But like to me, you're married. You know what I'm saying? You're married. Anyway, let's just get it. Let's just get it.
I mean, because like even like going that tangent right there, to me it was like a lose-lose situation for Joseph right now, or win-win or lose. I just say it's a lose-lose. Because think about it. On one hand, the consequences of his like if he resists, right? That's like okay. I either gotta if I resist, that could be like disgrace, imprisonment, death. I could conceal this. I could lose. I have the favor and the reward to still be in this house. So it's like on one hand, I could do this. I have to conceal it. But I can still have my favor. I could still be living in Potiphar's house. But I can still have this guilt on my heart. And if I don't do it, she could do whatever. But I could like disgrace, imprisonment, and even death. So it's like to me, it's like a sticky situation because at the end of the day, he still is a slave. Your master's wife, essentially, your master telling you to do something. You know it ain't right. Even I think we're skipping ahead a little bit. But it's like it's a lose-lose in this proposition.
Right. So
we see in verse 8. Go for it.
No, I was gonna read it.
Oh, read it.
Yeah. So this is the Eastern Standard Version. So this coming off when Potiphar's wife just proposed for him to lie with her, and he said, but he verse 8 says, but he refused and said to his master's wife, "Behold, because of me, my master has no concern about anything in the house. And he has put everything that he has in my charge. He is not greater in this house than I am, nor has he kept back anything from me except you, because you are his wife." So Joseph is just laying down everything. Joseph basically saying, "Mom, let's be real now. I have already exceeded the limits of a slave."
Like this make me laugh, right? So, and this is a tangent, but I was listening to one podcast, something this week, right? I was saying that okay, some athletes are overperformers, and some athletes are just superstars who underperform. So he's essentially saying that okay, like the shortest player in the NBA, what is it, Muggsy Bowles or whatever?
Yeah, probably.
He said he's an overperformer. He was like, for someone who was like 5'6", you overperformed in the NBA, but you were still never a superstar. But they say like someone like Shaq, he's a superstar, but some people could argue Shaq underperformed because he could have been the most dominant basketball player ever.
Oh man. Anyway, bro, I get to your point, bro, because I feel passionately about Shaq, dog. But continue.
but like, so like we say like Joseph was a slave, right? But he overperformed for his rank because he already reached one of the highest ranks a slave could ever reach. And he's saying like, why should I throw this away?
Right.
That was my point.
No, I get and I get what you're saying. So I got. So I think Muggsy Bogues like 5'2" in all honesty. For 5'2" person, you only expect a certain level, a glass ceiling. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that you could play with the likes of with the likes of like the 6'2s and the people of your thing, it's like you significantly overachieved, right? So with that, by that standard, if someone who had the height of a Shaq significantly overachieved, like it would be like just mind blowing. Like I get what you're saying, but you know, I still feel like Shaq is the most dominant center ever. But we probably can cut that out too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically he has already exceeded. It's like when you at a job and you look at the pipeline, you see, you know, I am here, I have a supervisor, I have a manager, blah, 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 the CEO. You could see at the top, right? And you could have an idea of how much they make and the opportunities that they have. And, you know, it's a competitive field, but you know that this is the pinnacle I can get here at this corporation or at this company. The best I could do is being the CEO. And if the CEO ain't what you desire, then tough noodles, you need to find something else or something. But if you know that your credentials only allow for you to be a manager and somehow you make it to the CEO or the CFO or someone up there, right? And someone try to entice you to do something under the table. That's basically the situation with Joseph's in, because Joseph is saying, yo, I'm already blessed beyond what I was supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was not forecasted. No slave was forecasted to be here. And it's to the point where Potiphar, who was the chief of the king's guard, and I are on like the same level. It's just he has an official title, but workload, we are comparable. You know, and guess what? I am running this house better than he has ever run his house, and that's by the grace of God. So, Mom, get out of my face, please. But I'm sure he said this respectfully the first time. Because the time that everybody knows, the time that I knew the best of his interaction with Potiphar's wife, I thought that was an isolated incident. But based on the text, it appears that she came through with this proposition many times.
Couple times.
Right.
Couple times. And we see Joseph say, like, how then can I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? I just want people to point out too, like, he never even say against Potiphar. Like, he already break down saying, yeah, Potiphar already put me in charge of this household, you know, like, cause he just did a wonderful job explaining that for us. The only thing he keeping this house away from me was you and his wife. But you should say, like, how could I do this wicked thing to Potiphar? He say, no, how could I do this thing against God? Because at the end of the day, Joseph's saying, guess what? It's God that put me in this position to begin with. Yeah, Potiphar was just a hand in God's master plan, but it ain't because of Potiphar. It's because of God. Now, if I do this wicked thing against God, what could come out of it? And the reason why I like that so much is because we know, like, I guess spoiler alert again, but we know this, like, these decisions what Joseph was making right now had ramifications for an entire nation.
Yes.
Nations.
Yes.
Essentially was that whole region at the time, Joseph decisions. Like, so like one could even fathom what would have happened if, like his forefathers, he failed the first test. You know, Abraham gave in to sleeping with Hagar. What happened to that? We still paying to that to this day.
Right.
Isaac.
Isaac.
Yeah, Isaac, he wasn't listening. You know what I'm saying? He was trying to give the birthright to Esau and not Jacob. Jacob had to steal it. We living through the conundrum that is Jacob's family.
Jacob
now.
never catch a break, bro. Like, you know, it's so funny. It's so funny because if you listen to the podcast, like a couple episodes back, we talk about how like he just squashed all the beefs. Right? He squashed every beef he had, right? Then out of nowhere, his son started picking up beefs with people, bro. Cause him off the move.
His son,
like,
exactly.
But I done been on the run. I have to go back to this. like Jacob never catch a break. And even during the story, the fact that his son, you remember they say his sons and his daughter tried to console him, but he would not allow them to console him. You know,
Exactly.
Jacob, Israel, bro, that one mistake had the trickle down events, bro. Like it's crazy, bro. Like, and it's sad to see all that he had to go through, which all could have been avoided with this one thing. Sidebar, Adam and Eve had a test. And like literally, Cain and Abel dying. Bro, I got robbed when I was like 17. All of that could have been avoided if Adam and Eve didn't eat of the fruit. You understand? Like every bad thing that ever happened in life, you know what I'm saying? It's enabled because the decision of Adam and Eve, our forefathers. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm just going to say, we feel like our life is insignificant compared to these people, but at the end of the day, we shouldn't respect these people. We shouldn't be respectful of people. We should just look at how God worked through them. Because at the end of the day, it's just us and God. And if you have a family, it's you and your family unit and God. You know. So basically, if you fail a test, it ain't gonna be as serious as the entire rest of the world being in sin, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it could be as important as your salvation being in jeopardy. This could be like a slippery slope type of situation, you know? And that's something that is easier said than done for sure. I'm not saying that I'm perfect or that this is like easy, you know? But at the same time, this is something as so important that we should always consider. Like I tell this story on here all the time. I was going through tests. I was going through a lot. Like this was stress. I had never experienced stress like this before. And I complained straight through. You know, and I'm embarrassed about that, you know, in my work in my relationship with God, because I'm saying, God, like, you was testing me, though. Like, you was like, bro, in order to get to the next step, because like the closer you get to God, the more successful you are. Your life don't get easier. It's a saying. It's not biblical, but it's a saying. It says new levels, new devils type of situation. If I at the bottom, bro, of the chain, right, at the food chain, bottom of the food chain, and I experiencing these quote unquote devils that have me losing my mind. Oh, you can't get all the way to the top. Not if that could break you down. You know what I mean? So like, I just feel like when it comes to these situations that we in, it's like you have to have the mindset of an optimist and the mindset of a Christian. I'll just say, because this ain't about you and your family, or this ain't about flesh and blood. This is like principalities. Like, I ain't sinning against Potiphar. Forget Potiphar. This is between me and God. Like, Mom, I'm not gonna allow you to put me in a situation to sin against God, slave or not. And like Joseph, I have to give him a round of applause, because what patriarch we know did not fall for the temptation of like a woman when they come to you with this type of Godfather offer? You know what I'm saying?
Bing, bing, bing. Like, man, there's something else you said that I want to talk about, but I just could pose it as like two quick questions to people. We should do a podcast episode on angels and demons, right? Like you say, like new devils, new levels, right? That's what people think about it, right? I just could play this question answer with you. What was Satan in heaven before he fell?
He was like the archangel. No, he was like, I don't know this term, but he was like the lead angel, the head angel.
He was like the head angel, lead angel. Exactly. So he was like pretty much right under the Godhead, right? How many angels was in heaven? How much angels in heaven now? Like trillions and trillions of angels, right? Satan took a third of the heavenly host at the time with him. If it was 3 trillion angels in heaven, he took a trillion angels in heaven. So just breaking it down for people, right? When you can see how much is a trillion, that's 9 zeros for people who just want to do a quick math. So now let's think about it. The head angel in heaven took a third of the heavenly host. Angels have different ranks. He just didn't take the low angel. He took from the angels right under him straight down to the lowly messengers. So it's just like how it's different ranks of angels. Like we talk about Gabriel in the Christmas episode, Gabriel being like an archangel and all them other stuff. There are different ranks of demons as well. And now just to move on with Joseph. With Joseph. Yeah, this is our little commercial break. But yeah, that's just for people to think about. And now in verse 10, like Kazi was saying, we see in verse 10, and though she spoke to Joseph day after day, he refused to go to bed with her and even be with her. I just want to point out the resilience and determination of Joseph, because we know people like David and Solomon,
Why?
they wasn't really refused day after day. Samson. I mean, because think about it now. And I mean, this is how the devil really starts to work on you too. It's one thing to tempt you once, but then when you get this constant tempting, because here's the thing, your willpower could last for one term, but now when you have this constant temptation, day after day after day after day, the temptations in your face, you can imagine the devil just whispering in his head, bro, no one's gonna know. Potiphar's away. You are in charge of the household. Who is gonna snitch on you? She is here. She wants it. She is asking you. You ain't even asking her. So surely she will not tell on you. Day after day, she come into him, and this man is saying no every time because it's a sin to his God, not your Egyptian play thingy over there, not your little idol, not your little dog sculpture. It is a sin to his God that has blessed him and put him in this position. I see you want to talk.
No, I thinking about how the best way to say this, bro. But I feel like there is a 70% chance that Nakhaz would not have passed that test. That's how I feel. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm just thinking about the circumstances, bro. Like, even if you have a pessimist, I'm not Joseph, by the way. This is Nakhaz being Nakhaz. You know what I mean? So if I feel like my brothers betray me, right? I've been here for years. You know, it's a thing in Psalms. It's a text in Psalms that talk about Joseph, and they were saying how his legs was all bruised up. They put a chain around his neck and then he was a slave at one point. You know what I mean? And I feel like that I feel betrayed. Like I don't know, maybe if I see how everything was prospering and I was hopeful, then that could change my mindset. But a lot of times, like, you're just ready to give up. You know what I mean? So it's like this type of offer, it's like the forbidden fruit, you know? And it's like you could always psych yourself out and say, bro, if I say no, she can kill me. You know what I mean? So I might as well say, yeah. You feel me? Type of situation, you know? And it ain't even like she asking you to do something that's like harmful to somebody or something. I feel like it's a lot of people who would just do that, you know? Like, and I feel like the thing about Joseph, I feel like he was like a pure, like he was pure to some degree, you know? He left when he was, even though he was like 17, he was still pretty innocent. It probably weighed down on him. Like, he probably wouldn't even have been able to like hold in that type of situation. It's probably the type of stuff that he used to condemn his brothers for. You know, y'all doing this, y'all doing that. You know what I'm saying? So like I could understand why Joseph held firm, but I feel like the biggest thing in all of this, bro, that constrained him to do this was God. Like, to me, I've never cheated on my girlfriend. And to some people, even my peers, that's impossible. And I could see how that's not believable to you. And it's like, my reason, I love my girlfriend.
Amen.
But my fiance. but seriously, my reason for doing so has always been God. You understand what I'm saying? It's always been God. And like, so I feel Joseph, but guess what? I am not a slave. I am a free mom with the free choice to do this. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody pressuring me and my job on the line and thing like that. You know, so like, I just want to say how, but like, to me, this is so admirable, bro. And it's almost like this mind boggling, like, cause who would do that, bro? That's what I'm thinking, bro. Like,
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think Joseph, I don't think Jesus was tempted to sleep with women in as the Bible recorded. I can't tell what happened in the other parts, but so far up to this point, Joseph has been the only one who's been presented with some type of female interaction that hasn't yielded. Like, and to me, it's very commendable, because just saying, I don't think Potiphar's wife, I really wish she had a name. They could call her Potiphar or something like that. But I would assume she was pretty too, because you were the captain of the king's guard. We know Egyptians, bro, if they want you and you look good, they take you. We already had an example of Pharaoh taking, Abraham's wife. Was it? You try to take Sarah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So, yeah. So, but just by that logic, like they want the best of the best when it comes to their women now, for sure. You understand what I'm saying? So, I always picture Potiphar's wife to always to look good. And, bro, like, this just go to show how locked in my boy was when it come to God, bro. And that's beautiful, bro. That's that's something I look up
then
to.
to
Like,
keep that exactly, like then to even keep that in a foreign land where no one else around you is serving the one true God as well. Like that's also it's even extra commendable because he was in a land of foreigners. He had already been sold into slavery, and I think, especially in our generation, we see so many people who might have had a bad run-in with God. Because it's easy for Joseph to blame God for anything else happening in his life, despite his blessings going on now. God, my father showed me favoritism. My brothers hated me because of that. I really had nothing much to do with me. God, you gave me these dreams. I just was telling them the dreams you gave me, and they hated me because of that. God, you let them sold me into slavery, and I just come to check up on them. God, now I am enslaved in a different land. I don't know what to do. Like, it's so easy for him. He could have just give up on God, say, like, clearly, God ain't real. God ain't here for me. But he was still holding on and still worshiping God through his struggles in life. And we see that even through his struggles, God was still blessing him. And I think that's an important lesson to note because Joseph had it hard. Granted, we still was like trying to paint it the best light possible. Like at the end of the day, he still was a slave in a foreign land, different language, different culture, different people. It was a culture shock when he got sold because he was a goody two-shoe who was up under his father all of his life until he was sold into slavery. So he wasn't ready for the struggles of the world.
He never had to do no hard labor and thing like that. He was a soft, pretty boy type of situation. And then, bro, like to me, one of my biggest fears, dog, like this is a deep fear for me, bro. It's to like go to prison in a non-English speaking country, dog.
I think locked up abroad messed that up for me too. I'm like, I don't go to prison, period.
I just didn't want to sound like a punk, bro. That's honestly one of my biggest fears. Like going to prison, like throwing my life away type of situation. But bro, to add another layer of difficulty being you can't understand what people saying, dog. So you saw it. Nah, this Joseph didn't get this before that. You know what I'm saying? So like, but you have to learn a new language. We don't know if he knew Egyptian. How would he learn? He could have. Who knows?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? He had to learn it because, I mean, granted, and this is also foreshadowing, whenever his brothers came back to Egypt, he had a quote-unquote translator there to show that they didn't understand Egyptian. He wasn't Egyptian, didn't really understand Hebrew.
So, right. Because
this was before they all came there. They wasn't living there for 400 years yet. So I had no reason to learn your language. You had no reason to learn mine.
So, yeah. So, like, bro, like, just imagine this culture shock, bro. You went from fine coat of many colors type, you know what I mean? Type robe, the best treatment, you know, a loving family to the most part, with the exception of your brothers. And now you just a slave, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you reduced to, you know, sleeping with somebody who someone just basically hounding you down day after day after day, and you're like, oh Lord, like, all right, woman, get it to your head, bro. What's wrong with you? There's plenty of slaves in the sea. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah.
Exactly. And then so now picking up from verse 11, so 39 verse 11. One day he went into the house to attend his duties. So he showed up and just wanted to do his job. And no one was inside the household. She caught him by his cloak and said, "You're mine." The Bible says, "Come to bed with me."
She caught him by his cloak and said, "Gotcha."
But Joseph, and to me, it's even the ultimate one too. No one else here, so definitely no one else can know. You already got my cloak. And Joseph said, nope. He ran out of the house. And I like how the Bible made sure they emphasize he ran out of the house. He was like, no way. No, I don't want it.
Bro, my dog run out of the house, bro. Yeah, bro. Like, sometimes you gotta run, bro. Sometimes you gotta run, dog. You know what I mean? Like,
hey, oh, be careful, little feet where you
go.
But my goodness, so like, is she so conniving? Is the word I guess I'll use here.
It's called like Tropsy in the Bahamas. She drops he.
She kept his cloak beside her until Potiphar came home. Like, how sick in the brain do you have to be?
All right.
Like, you want it so bad from someone who ain't your husband that you want to go to this lengths because he rejected you? Like, this got me thinking that other people, that she might have been doing this with other, like, I think you said this a while ago, like, she might be doing this with other slaves in the household and they just was giving it up.
Yeah, probably.
You know, she really wants Joseph, and Joseph just being like, why he playing so hard to get?
Like that. All right, so this is how I picture it in my mind, right? Now, this is completely in the mind of Kazi, right? Beautiful lady, right? She and Potiphar, they might not have the strongest marriage or whatever, right? And she might just tempt slaves and they give in. And she only want the choices of them. So she want the most beautiful ones. And, you know, and it feeds into her ego because she's beautiful and she just wants that type of acceptance or whatever, right? And so now we have someone who is definitely, quote unquote, a stud. And it's like, oh yeah, this will validate me a lot if, you know what I'm saying, if you and I, you know, if we go through with it. And he denies it, so that's probably like a shot at her ego, you know? That's probably like, that probably like hurt her feelings, like, what? Like she got denied? Like, what?
And the constant rejection.
Denies. Nobody denies Potiphar's wife. Like, that's what she's saying in first person. You know what I mean? But yeah, so and you can see she was scorned. It was scorn, and you know, and I don't even know what the word is, revenge. Like she saw
it was definitely revenge, yeah. Because we see she even lied on him, like in verse 17. Then she told him this story, Potiphar, because at this point Potiphar came home. The Hebrew slave you brought us came to me to make sport of me. But as soon as I screamed for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house. So I'm like, dang, she don't even call him by his name now. Well, granted, she never called him by his name. She was the man he slept with her. Yeah. But then to lie about this and have this elaborate story. So like when Potiphar heard this, his wife told him saying, this is how your slave treated me. Potiphar was mad with anger. And Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined.
So there's something that I always, not always, let me stop lying. There's something that I just was start thinking about last year is because reading Patriarchs and Prophets, Ellen White made mention that Potiphar did not believe his wife. She did not believe him. And if she had believed him, he would have been put to death. And now, to be completely clear, this is not in the Bible. These words are not in the Bible, right? But context leads me to believe that this is true. I remember I was watching a movie too. I think it was like, was it The Prince of Egypt about Joseph? Or was that about Moses? It's a Joseph story on Netflix. This is not an ad. But anyway, it's a Joseph story, right? This is a Joseph cartoon story that I watched. And Potiphar's mannerisms, when it was time Potiphar had suggested to put him to death. And his wife was like, no, don't put him to death. And then he looked at her like, oh, wow. Like, you taking up for him, that lead me to believe you lying. You know, and then he put him in prison. And like, and I watched that recently, and that was really sitting on my mind. I'm like, wow, bro, because even the way the Bible puts it, the Bible says that he went to like the king's prison. Like they specified that like it wasn't even like to say he went to prison or they put him in a dungeon, you know? They put him in the king's prison. And I was trying to research if there's a difference in levels of prison. Because, you know, like when celebrities go to jail a lot of times or go to prison, a lot of times they go to like a dormitory style prison where it's not like, you're not in general population. Like, and you get afforded a few luxuries. Even when you look at those old mob movies, like even like people, like those old mob bosses, when they go to jail, they get a really nice prison cell. And, you know, it's because of money and stuff. But like, I'm wondering, like, to me, this is like it all lines up because one, we see where Abram, when he met with Pharaoh, he had to lie in order to save his life because Pharaoh would have killed Abram for Abram's wife, Sarai. So he had to tell a half a lie, which is still a lie, that was his sister, in order to preserve his life. And we had seen where another king, can't remember his name right now, he did that to Isaac and Abraham, where they had to lie and say that.
Was it Abimelech?
I think I remember it starting with an 8. We'll say Abimelech, where they had to lie just to preserve their life. So if kings and royal people in government are willing to kill you for your wife, what you think they'll do for their wife is the questions that I thought, you know? And the fact of the matter is, you trust Joseph. You trust Joseph to the level where you trust him more than any other slave that you ever trust before. And you trust him to the point where you trust him as if he was you. Like, I only got to worry about what I eat. I ain't got to worry about the day-to-day operations because you got that and you're flourishing in that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, to me, it's very believable that you can see this guy's character. Like, in the Bahamas, they say you can't swear for nobody, which means that you can't definitively say that someone is above doing something, you know, because you don't know their heart, truthfully. But it's some people whose character shines through them so much to the point where you look at them and it's like, it would break you to believe that you capable of something like this. Now, we knew there are a master deceivers and people like that, but it's some people, you know, their spirit, bro. Like, you a really cool person. Like, you a really loving individual. I can stand and say, I cannot believe that you did that. So if, and you know, this isn't, we don't have proof to prove or deny it in the Bible based on this chapter. You know, I'm sure maybe somewhere else in the Bible there's something that can corroborate the story a little better. But based on that, like, to me, that's still even favor still. Now, granted, we was already saying how it's favor that he was in the house of Potiphar in the first place. Like, you know, but consider this. You more than likely should have been put to death for something like this. You're a slave.
Bing.
You know what I'm saying? You're a slave.
Bing, bing, bing.
But instead, you get sentenced to go to prison with no release date. You get you sent to prison,
A life sentence.
until further notice. You know?
And it's a couple things I want to piggyback off of, right? Because you mentioned Ellen G. White. For other people out there, there's other commentaries actually say the same thing as Ellen G. White, that Potiphar should have sentenced Joseph to death just because you even take Ellen G. White word from it, blatant customs of the day. Because remember, the Bible is also a history book. So once you look at the time period in which this story happened, you can see that Joseph should have been put to death for this crime. And to me, I'm just thinking about Potiphar, right? Because you're married to this woman, so you know how she is. Now, granted, Potiphar was the captain to the king guard, so he might have been doing his side business too. So he might have not minded his wife interacting with other slaves, but he knew the type of woman he married. And think about it. Potiphar also knew the type of man Joseph was. Think about it. You don't put a man you don't trust. And we talked about this in the beginning of the podcast, but you don't put a man you don't trust in charge of your whole household. Think about it. Joseph, he put Joseph, a slave, and we make sure we emphasize this, a slave, a Hebrew slave in charge of his whole household. You don't do that if you don't trust this man.
That's fact. And guess what? You put him in charge of everything. So that means you put him in, you trust him with everything. You trust him to leave him alone with your wife.
Think about it. I think that's why the Bible even made short mention. The only thing he concerned himself with was his food. I can leave my wife in here with you, and I trust you because I see the type of character that you are showing to me, that you will not indulge in my wife, no matter how beautiful she is. I already see the type of character you are. Like, you know, in the Bahamas, when we say, my spirit take to you. So we can see Potiphar's spirit took to Joseph. That's the only way you leave in a grown man who well-built and look good in the house with your wife. You saying, guess what? I might not be able to trust my wife that much, and kind of sad to say that, but I know I could trust you to not do anything. So I even think Potiphar was angry because now his wife made such a spectacle of this. I know it ain't Joseph, but you kind of forcing my hand to do something. This kind of reminds me of when Pilate and with Jesus, when Pilate say, you know what? I have a proposition for the crowd. Y'all want Barabbas, a murderer, raper, and thief, or Jesus? Thinking surely they're gonna say, you know what? Release Jesus, kill Barabbas. And the people say, give us Barabbas. And Pilate was like, guess what? I have to wash my hands of this because there's no way y'all would take that option.
Yeah, like what?
So I think Potiphar was like, well, dang, you kind of forcing my hand to do this action now because you're gonna make such a spectacle of this. So now I angry because now I'm faced with this decision because I know what you did. I know the predicament I'm in. Now I have to do something to Joseph because I can't honor a Hebrew slave over my wife. But now, and simultaneously, you're forcing me to give up my blessings because of something you did. I mean, I think about it now. In all reality, you caused me to give up my blessings because something you did.
Because you could.
This man was running my household so
You
good.
couldn't keep your hands to yourself.
You couldn't keep your hands to yourself. Now you messed up my blessings. And now we see in Joseph, and this is a line you like to say, no good deed goes unpunished. We see Joseph, who did nothing, did everything right, again, finds himself being punished. Again, for doing absolutely nothing wrong. And this almost like I shouldn't say almost, kind of reminds me of Jesus. Like we see Jesus was, the only man who came to earth and did not sin, walked blameless. You know what I'm saying? Walked blameless. And then he had to die for our sins. Now we see Joseph having to go to jail for a sin he didn't even commit. But now and also go show how Potiphar had grace on him because Potiphar could have killed him. But Potiphar said, you know what, I'm gonna just put you in jail. And I
just thought about this, and this is so like self-explanatory, but I just thought about this, bro. Let's bypass all like Egypt and the year that this was in and the times. Just think about the slavery that the slavery that we know that happened over 400 years ago. If a slave do anything, he was getting killed. He was getting his leg chopped off. All of this. This is a slave. You understand what I'm saying? So, bro, if a regular person sleep with your wife or rape your wife, you're gonna want to kill him. You understand what I'm saying? And you are the chief of the guard, bro. You have it in your power to kill him lawfully. You understand what I'm saying? Like even beyond, like throughout the Bible, like somebody sleep with your wife consensually, or two of them could have got put to death. You understand what I'm saying? And it was a disregard for human life. It might be the same now to this day, no lie, just depend on the region which you in. But based on how the Bible puts it, it's like people were dying for less, honestly. Joseph was almost about to die just for being a spy, like his father's little helper type of situation. And it's your brothers. Imagine strangers, bro. Like I feel like this is how Nakhaz feel. I feel like for sure Potiphar did not believe that Joseph did this. And as a result, I have to give you this is a lose-lose for him. Because I have to make a call because I'll be the laughing stock. This is already a big scandal. You know what I mean? And now you're getting him between my money. And now I have to send an innocent man. I have to punish an innocent man. So I can send you to jail. You know what I mean? Hope for the best. I know he probably thought, yeah, this done for you, but you was a slave anyway. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, at least you're still alive. And that's the call Potiphar to make. Send him to jail. And even that was a blessing. Even though, the blessing of the Lord was upon Joseph, so there's nothing else Potiphar really could have done. Like, he couldn't have killed him. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But now, if Joseph had done it, the story could have been completely different. He probably, more than likely, would have got killed.
Exactly. I personally feel that had Joseph had sinned against God, there would have been some repercussions. There would have been repercussions because we see in every instance when the main focus of the Bible at that point does what is not in God's plan. Yeah, the results they might get at the time might be what they wanted, but we see there's extra strings of sin attached to that.
We just saw in the last episode where a man got killed for spilling his seed on the ground. That
yep.
You know what I'm saying? The Lord, that upset God. So this ain't even something you got to think about. Joseph definitely would have been penalized, and it could have been his life. If he had done that. Is it worth it? No. And I feel like just as a human being, Christian or not, whatever walk of life you are, you have to think ahead. Like, you have to consider the results of your actions. And you have to consider that while you take this stand. Like, even people like the civil rights leaders back in the day, they know that they standing up for equality, but they know that they doing that at the risk of being beaten, being killed, going to jail. And it's like, when you take all of that consideration, how much is it worth to you? It's worth everything to me. So that's a risk I'm willing to take, type of situation. You think Joseph wanted to go to hell or get killed for old Potiphar wife? No, bro, that ain't it. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's the way we need to think about sin too. Even myself, like everybody, like, you think I want to go to jail? My bad. You think I want to lose my salvation just for lying? You know what I mean? Just for vanity, just for breaking the Sabbath, like just for being indulgent. Consume it myself. Is that worth it? Like I feel like it's just that black and white. Like, that's how we need to think about things. But of course, there's a lot that go in between. There's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of stuff factoring in, and a lot of times when we in these situations, it ain't too much thinking going on.
No. And so now even finishing off chapter verse 20, we see, but while Joseph was there in prison, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did. And it's funny. So now, like, let me just summarize Joseph's life up until this point, right? He was from the privilege of his father's house to the pit his brothers threw him in, to being the property in the slave market. And then, he had the privilege of managing Potiphar's household. Then he was, I guess, keeping up with the P's. He was principled to stand against the temptation of sleeping with Potiphar's wife. And then to perjury of false accusation, he didn't do anything. And now he's in the prison of Pharaoh. And now
he got promoted.
Good one, because I was running out of peas. I ain't gonna lie. So now he was promoted in prison to be the head prison warden apprentice.
Yeah.
But I just like how the Bible, I just said that right there. Like, the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did. And this has been a great episode so far. I mean, because Joseph, he is personally one of my favorite Bible characters just because of the life he lived. He didn't really fall per se or give into temptation. He was always humble. Because at any point in this time, Joseph could have been swollen with pride and lost connection with God, but he didn't do that. He said, you know what? Though what circumstances may come my way, I am still going to serve the Lord. God, and to me, it's like a prime example of knowing where God has brought you from. Like, look where God has brought me from, and look what he's been doing through me. Yeah, I may come into fall after fall, pit after pit after pit, pit to prison to exaltation. Remember when God said, be humble and I will exalt you at the right time. And to me, this verse, I think this was in Hebrews, but this verse even applies so much better to Joseph. Because, he had to stay humble until at the right time the Lord exalted him, because Earl Roberts II, I probably would have lost some faith along the way. Because God, each time I think, God, you gave me a dream when I was 16 saying that my brothers and my father are going to bow down to me. 2 different dreams. But from that dream, all I've been getting is heartache and pain. You've sent me into a pit with my brothers. They want to kill me. I got sold into slavery, which some argue is worse than death. I thought I caught a break, overperformed in the terminology we use in this podcast, made it to the head of the king's guard, Lord. I say, you know what, Lord? I'm going to be faithful to you. I'm not going to sleep with this woman. I'm not
day after day after day, Lord, I did the right thing, Lord. I did the right thing, Lord. But still I find myself in prison. Still I find myself in prison. And now, to me, his circumstances even got a little bit more grim, because at least in Potiphar's household, he was on the outside and could still, roam about in the outside of prison. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're still in the household. You probably had a servant's quarters over there in the yard where you could still be, but you are as close to a free man that you could possibly be as a slave. But in prison, it's different, because you are a bona fide prisoner. Any sense of lying to yourself that you are free is gone. But even still, like, Joseph didn't really lose faith. He still honored God. He still gave faith. And we see that even through all of this, and because of this, God still blessed him and gave him success in everything he did. And this is a perfect example of, for I know the plans I have for you, say the Lord, plans, to prosper and to succeed, of a bright future. Because I'm sure Joseph could not see the light at the end of the tunnel. As so many times as we're going through life and we're just trying to figure out, why is this happening? Why am I going through this struggle, Lord? Lord, I feel that nothing in my life is going right, no matter what I do. I think this is why Paul even says our righteousness is but filthy rags to the Lord, because nothing we can do can get us into heaven. But at the same time, sometimes it just feels so defeating. And I know I personally go through this sometimes. Sometimes it feels so defeating when you think you're doing everything right, but you're just not getting the results that you want, or seeing the blessings that you want God to provide you with. But God said, guess what, my child? I know the plans I have for you. What you think is just a pit of sorrow, I'm preparing you for what you really, I'm preparing to exalt you. Just keep the faith and trust me, my child, everything will work out.
It seems like Joseph just can't catch a break. First, sold into slavery by his own brothers, now convicted of a crime that he did not commit. Joseph gets some company while in prison, and they all share one commonality. But we'll talk about Joseph, the chief baker, and the chief butler on the next episode of A Breath of Fresh Air. Tonight's episode included voice acting by Ayanna Albertson, followed by your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz. Remember to go ahead and research on your own in order to get a more firm understanding of tonight's episode. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. You can follow us on social media at A Breath of Fresh Air Pod on Instagram and BOFAPOD on Twitter. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next week.